Today, we journey back in time, far beyond the mighty dinosaurs, to an era when Earth was young, wild, and taking its first steps toward life. Before the giants roamed, our planet went through unimaginable changes, shaping the world we know today. The formation of Earth and early atmosphere. Earth's story began over 4.5 billion years ago, not as the blue and green world we see today, but as a blazing, molten sphere. In its infancy, our planet was a hostile, chaotic place, shaped by violent cosmic events. It was born from swirling clouds of gas and dust, colliding with countless asteroids and comets, each impact generating intense heat. These constant collisions caused Earth's surface to glow like a furnace, with temperatures so high that nothing we recognize as life could survive. As millions of years passed, Earth slowly began to cool, and a thin crust started forming over its molten core. However, this was far from a peaceful transformation. Volcanic eruptions raged across the surface, spewing lava and releasing gases into the atmosphere. Unlike today's breathable air, this early atmosphere was thick with carbon dioxide, methane, ammonia, and water vapor, creating a toxic and suffocating environment. There was no oxygen, no blue skies, and certainly no creatures to witness these early stages of planetary evolution. Yet, despite its violent nature, this unstable environment was laying the groundwork for something extraordinary. Water, the most essential ingredient for life, began to appear. Scientists believe that comets carrying frozen water bombarded the Earth, or that volcanic activity released steam, which eventually cooled and condensed into liquid. Over millions of years, vast oceans formed, covering much of the planet's surface. These ancient waters would become the birthplace of life itself. Though the land was barren and lifeless, the atmosphere continued to evolve. Lightning storms flashed across the skies, reacting with gases to create complex molecules, some of the very building blocks of life. This period, known as the Hadean Eon, was both destructive and transformative, setting the stage for the biological revolution that would follow. As Earth settled from its chaotic beginnings, something remarkable happened. Life began. Though it may seem impossible that anything could emerge from a world of volcanic eruptions, acidic oceans, and a toxic atmosphere, the first living organisms arose in this harsh environment. Scientists believe that life originated around 3.5 to 4 billion years ago, deep in the primordial oceans. These first life forms were microscopic, single-celled organisms known as prokaryotes, ancestors of modern bacteria and archaea. They thrived in extreme conditions, possibly near hydrothermal vents on the ocean floor, cracks in the Earth's crust that spewed superheated, mineral-rich water. These vents provided the necessary ingredients for life: heat, energy, and essential chemical compounds. At first, these simple organisms relied on chemical reactions to survive, feeding on the minerals around them. But as they evolved, some developed an extraordinary ability that would change Earth forever: photosynthesis. Tiny cyanobacteria, also called blue-green algae, became the first organisms to harness sunlight and convert carbon dioxide into energy, releasing oxygen as a byproduct. This process, though slow at first, had profound consequences for the planet. For millions of years, oxygen released by these tiny life forms accumulated in the oceans. At first, it reacted with iron in the water, forming rust-like deposits that sank to the ocean floor, creating massive iron formations that we still mine today. But eventually, oxygen levels began to rise in the atmosphere, leading to what is known as the Great Oxygenation event, around 2.4 billion years ago. This was one of the most significant turning points in Earth's history. It transformed the planet's atmosphere, making it more similar to the air we breathe today. However, this change was catastrophic for many of the early life forms that thrived in an oxygen-free world. Unable to adapt, many species went extinct, while others evolved new ways to survive in the changing environment. As oxygen levels increased, life became more complex. Over time, some simple cells evolved into more advanced organisms with internal structures, giving rise to the first eukaryotic cells. These cells were larger and more sophisticated, eventually leading to the development of multicellular life. By around 600 million years ago, Earth's oceans teemed with soft-bodied creatures, from jellyfish-like organisms to the first primitive worms and sponges. This period set the foundation for all future life. From tiny bacteria to the first complex organisms, every living thing today, including us, can trace its origins back to these earliest forms of life that once thrived in Earth's ancient waters. Long before dinosaurs ruled the Earth, life had already undergone billions of years of evolution, shaping the planet into a thriving world of strange and fascinating creatures. From the depths of the ancient seas to the first forests on land, life was constantly evolving, adapting, and conquering new environments. The Cambrian explosion, the dawn of animal life. Around 540 million years ago, a dramatic event known as the Cambrian explosion occurred. Before this period, most life forms were simple, microscopic, and soft-bodied. But suddenly, in just a few tens of millions of years, an instant in geological time, Earth's oceans filled with an incredible diversity of new creatures. Many of these animals had hard shells, exoskeletons, and complex body structures, marking the first appearance of most major groups of animals we recognize today. Some of the most bizarre and fascinating creatures of this time included Anomalocaris, a giant shrimp-like predator with sharp grasping limbs, and Opabinia, a five-eyed creature with a long, flexible snout. Trilobites, a group of armored arthropods, became one of the most successful and widespread animals of the era, crawling along the ocean floor in massive numbers. These creatures formed the first true ecosystems, where predator-prey interactions, competition, and survival shaped the course of evolution. The first steps onto land. For hundreds of millions of years, life was restricted to the oceans. But around 450 million years ago, during the Ordovician and Silurian periods, the first brave pioneers began to venture onto land. These were not animals, but simple plants, like mosses and liverworts, which helped transform the barren rock into fertile soil. As these early plants spread, they created the first terrestrial ecosystems, paving the way for more complex life. Not long after, arthropods, ancestors of modern insects, spiders, and crustaceans, became the first animals to colonize land. Giant millipede-like creatures, such as Arthropleura, roamed the damp, swampy landscapes, while scorpions and early spiders began hunting in the undergrowth. These were the first true terrestrial predators, feeding on smaller invertebrates as life on land continued to diversify. The Age of Giants, the Carboniferous period. By the Carboniferous period, about 359 to 299 million years ago, Earth was covered in vast, dense forests unlike anything we see today. Towering club mosses, ferns, and giant horsetails grew up to 100 feet tall, creating thick jungles where enormous insects thrived. During this time, oxygen levels in the atmosphere were much higher than today, reaching up to 35% compared to today's 21%, which allowed insects and arthropods to grow to enormous sizes. Some of the most astonishing creatures of this era included Meganeura, a dragonfly-like insect with a wingspan of over 2 feet, making it one of the largest flying insects in history. Meanwhile, Pulmonoscorpius, a scorpion the size of a house cat, hunted prey in the dense undergrowth. These forests also provided a new home for the first true amphibians, such as Ichthyostega, which had fish-like fins but could walk on land. These early vertebrates gave rise to the first reptiles, marking the beginning of a new chapter in evolution. The rise of reptiles and the first dominant land creatures. As time passed, the world continued to change. By the Permian period, about 299 to 252 million years ago, reptiles became the dominant land animals. Unlike amphibians, which relied on water for reproduction, reptiles laid tough, protective eggs, allowing them to spread into drier environments. This evolutionary advantage led to the rise of early reptiles like Dimetrodon, a sail-backed predator that ruled the land long before dinosaurs appeared. At this time, Earth's continents were merging into a supercontinent known as Pangaea, creating vast deserts and changing the global climate. The diversity of life continued to grow, with large herbivores and fierce predators shaping prehistoric ecosystems. However, This era of life before dinosaurs came to a sudden and catastrophic end with the Permian-Triassic extinction, also called the Great Dying. This mass extinction wiped out nearly 90% of all species, making way for the rise of the dinosaurs. Earth before the ending. The legacy of life before dinosaurs. The story of Earth before dinosaurs is one of transformation, survival, and innovation. From the fiery beginnings of our planet to the rise of the first complex ecosystems, life continuously adapted, evolved, and thrived in ways that shaped the world we know today. The tiny bacteria that once filled the ancient oceans paved the way for towering forests, giant insects, and fearsome reptilian predators, each playing a crucial role in Earth's history. Though dinosaurs would later become the dominant creatures of the Mesozoic era, they inherited a planet already rich with life and diversity. Every great creature that walked, swam,